So Nick and I are redoing this beautiful kiln, but to redo it, we first have to take it completely apart and get rid of the parts we're not keeping. That unfortunately means that Nick and I are going to have to smash out the entire inside of this kiln. We didn't have any heavy equipment, so there was no way for us to just move this in one piece, and even if we had the heavy equipment to move it onto a truck, the space that it's going in is impossible to reach with heavy equipment, and this thing weighed a lot. Because this brick was also wet, it made it even harder to try to think about moving it in one piece. The kiln is from the 70s, and so this brick has been through it. It's been moved multiple times, and it would have needed rebuilt pretty soon, even if we hadn't moved it. So that's part of why we're taking all of the brick out. The kiln was put together with 2 layers of brick mortared together, and then a layer of something called perlite, which is an insulating layer. And then there's the outer frame, which is metal, and the metal is quite rusted, and the perlite is not standard. You don't see that today anymore. It was standard at the time when this kiln was built, but it isn't really very practical for our uses. So we really smashed all of this out, and all of the brick and perlite went to the dump, unfortunately. There's not a lot we can do with it at this point. It's very wet. It's been fired too many times, and you can see how the bricks didn't come out in like convenient brick chunks. They came out really stuck together, so there was really no reusing any of this brick, which is always a bummer. We love to reuse where we can, but this kiln is going to get a whole new life in our house. You can also kind of see how rusted the frame is when you see the inside of the kiln, and we're going to be fixing that as well. This was definitely not a small project. Moving the kiln did only take us one day. I'm very impressed. We thought it was going to take us more than one, but Nick really went for it and broke this thing completely apart, and then I helped him get everything bagged up. And it took a little while, but once we got down to about here, most of the bricks started just coming out a whole lot easier. Partly because we decided at this point it would be so much easier to actually take the kiln frame apart and then get the rest of the bricks out that way. So Nick went and grabbed his angle grinder pretty quick after this and cut apart the frame, which you can see him doing in these next clips. After we took the front of the kiln off, it was so much easier to be able to get in and scoop all of those bricks out, and we're trying to save as much of the metal as we can because we're reusing almost all of it except some of the metal side panels that were too rusted to use and the bottom, which you'll see in a minute. Once the kiln was completely apart, we cleaned everything up, stuck it in a U-Haul, and drove it home, and we have put it back together in our backyard, which I will be showing you very soon.